Connections radio show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and our goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us talking, get us imagining, get us playful, get us serious, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do it just a bit more because we made the connection. So today, I love Park Square Theater. So I always love when Michael John Peace is my co-host and we get to talk about the Park Square Theater programs. Welcome, Michael John.
Thank you so much. And we started out with the garden theme before the show.
Yes,
You've got your fresh mint in your water, and a gentle rain is falling to bring all the good things growing. So.
Yes, and we talked about flowers and digging and all sorts of great things that will get incorporated, I think, throughout the show today. So, Michael John, you've got a terrific show, and we also have in studio today the artistic director for the new, after 1 year celebration of the artistic director. We've got Flordolino here, Flordolino Lagundino.
Very good. Very good. Excellent.
I think I like slurred a little bit the good in there. Lagundino. There we go.
That's very good.
There we go.
Very good.
You've got a cool play coming up, but I want to first talk about what's happening right now with Rule of Thumb. Rule of Thumb is just hysterical. I absolutely adored it. I didn't know what to expect because I expected a traditional Agatha Christie play, but I got 4 or 3 at least. Three plays.
Yes. 3, and it left you with a taste for more.
Yes, and it did. It did.
Yeah, it's like 3 sampler-sized mysteries. It's such an old-fashioned concept of putting, a couple or more one-acts jammed together for an evening. And so, no surprisingly, it's like the area premiere of shows that were written decades ago. And it's interesting the way the audience is responding because, again, people aren't used to that format. I mean, it's kind of like if you're in a theater degree in college, maybe you do an evening of one-acts, and that's about it, right? But they're really enjoying it.
It's sort of like small plates. We're getting a dinner of small plates.
Right.
So how is it going? How are folks reacting to it? Are they loving it as much as I loved it?
They are, and they're really loving, I think, the change in taste from when some of the plays were written, and Austin Band's decision to make what might have been written as a thriller into a comic piece, the center play, really is what makes that work for audiences today.
There's almost like that old-style radio, no! Stop! Really?
Right. And all of those little stingers, they call them, throughout the show that have these very filmic moments of music to just highlight the moment, either make it seem more suspenseful or make fun of the fact that it's actually not suspenseful.
Yeah, it's stylized, and the costumes were absolutely gorgeous. The scenery, I loved the magic of how the scenery changed, and it was like even though it was the same, it was very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? It's like without hydraulics and 100 stage hands to transport you to 3 different worlds over the course of 2 hours. So, but yeah, people are really loving the style of it, and and the fact that you don't have to follow a through line for 2.5 hours. You just get 3 different stories.
So tell me, how long is it still going to be running for?
So it runs through August 25th. This is the latest we've ever run in our season. We had flirted with the idea of running through the state fair, and I was like, oh, come on, people. We're really not going to do that. Plus, we have a new season to open, so we need to stop this one at some point.
So tell me a little bit about the season coming up.
Oh, the season coming up is so exciting. So we'll hear from Flordolino. It's the very first season that he's planned for us. He's been leading the last season that Richard Cook planned, the season that we're in. And it's really big and bold, and it says, hey, come to Park Square. Have fun. Again, to your through line of ideas that matter, we used to have a tagline more than a decade ago that we were entertainment that matters. Mm-hmm. And that's still true. It's just not our tagline anymore. But it's still one of the cores of how we program. And so I think you definitely see it. They're all evenings worth coming out for, but there's a lot of fun and a lot of what I call big invitations.
Well, there's nostalgia for me with the Rocky Horror.
I know. And don't you love our little tagline for that is sexy classic musical. We just made up a category called sexy classic musical. Because it's like, well, it's been around since 1974. So at this point, at what point does it become classic and not just old, right? Except it's new for everyone that sees it.
Well, I think 30 years gives it. But, it became such a cult classic so quickly because it was so bizarre. I mean, I did in the 70s attend and bring toast and a raincoat and all of those things. It became a party. So I would guess that you might have audience members that recall that and may even, bring some of the props that they had when they went to the Rocky
We just
Horror.
had a meeting about the participation kits that we will be selling. And now, what's different between the stage musical versus the movie, there's a couple songs that they have that are different, and there's no toast in the stage musical.
No toast.
No.
Oh, okay.
There's other food.
I'll leave that at
There's
home.
rice. but
Which
there's-
makes our facilities manager very happy.
Yes, exactly.
But don't bring rice either.
We're
see about that.
figuring that out. Yes.
Good for you. And then aubergine.
Yes, Aubergine starts the season, and Flordelino brought us this play, and we all fell in love with it. In fact, I remember Mary Finnerty, our education director, who is reviewing everything to see is there a spot for school participation in it. And her words, she started saying, I love this play, we really should do it. And then it was, we must do it because we must bring it to schools. So there was your first assignment.
Yes.
We must do this play.
Well, Flordelino, I know we're going to really focus on you in our next segment, but just to give us a sense of why you thought this was important and why you brought it to Park Square.
Particularly that show.
Yeah.
It's a play that I've read like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been following Julia Cho's career for quite some time, actually. And I thought it was like one of the plays that she brought together all of the skills that she had been. She's always been just a fantastic writer. They've done a play actually at Park Square a little while ago, and I thought that she brought everything, all her fantastic writing, her intelligence, but also her heart to this play. And I still believe it's like one of the best plays that was written over the last 10 years by an Asian American, and maybe by anyone. It has so much heart, talks so personally about her relationship between a father and a son. And I think that was a big thing.
And it's a multicultural perspective?
It is. Well, it's a perspective of an Korean American writer about a Korean American story. And so it centers a Korean American chef that is dealing with the taking care of his father in the later stages of the father's life, and how the difficulty of that is because of the lack of the ability to communicate with language, and the cultural differences. The son was born in America. The father was an immigrant from Korea, and so there's a lot of tension there in terms of how we take care of and show love to each other.
You're doing some interesting things in the Hmong community. Is this in relationship with the Aubergine play?
They're not. They're only related by virtue of the fact that Flordelino has picked up our strategic flag to go out and really make authentic relationships with key communities in the Twin Cities. And the Hmong community is so important to all of Minnesota, and particularly St. Paul. And so timing-wise, while Aubergine is just going to begin rehearsals here in a hot minute, we are deep in planning and executing for a spring project called Face to Face Our Hmong Culture, or our Hmong community. And so that is a partnership with Ping Chong and Company from New York to really go out in the community and interview people and create an original piece of theater based on their interwoven stories that community members themselves will perform on our stage. So talk about, without even passing through the medium of a playwright per se and actors, just really getting to the heart of someone else's story. That's going to be the first time we've ever done that on our stage. And applications are online now for people who want to participate as community members in that project. So it's kind of really wonderful as we've been reaching out to different segments and leaders in the Asian American community locally, how often they're by regional theaters are kind of left aside. It's like there's lots of work and with other segments of our community. Or they're grouped together It's like everyone's Asian, right? It's like, well.
Yeah.
I think both aubergine, the ability to be completely particular and specific about the Korean community, and then face-to-face to get really face-to-face and heart-to-heart with our Hmong neighbors is a fantastic opportunity.
Terrific. Tell me a little bit about the other plays coming up for the season.
Well, I mean, once you've said Rocky Horror, right, it's like buy your season tickets now.
Exactly.
It's just stop talking and, keep one ear on the radio show and go online and just buy your season tickets.
You can listen and then go to the parksquaretheater.org.
Right. And what I can say is big pink glitter stage. Let me just say that. And then we have next show in the season after Rocky Horror is Pride and Prejudice, a new feminist take since Jane Austen was really the first feminist writer in British literature anyway. And so that's fun and fast-paced, and it's the story that you love, full of the heart of people who are actually searching for love, but it does really poke fun at the idea of marriage as a business and a contract that is at the heart of a lot of her work. And then January brings us Evita. So another huge invitation just for musical lovers and stories that people have heard of or seen, but again, a different take. I'm just hearing some casting that'll make that very interesting. So.
It's always interesting to look at a despot.
Yeah, right.
See if it relates to us in any way.
and really from just a woman's perspective,
Yes.
what society can demand of you or what it feels like it takes to get to where you want to be. Yeah.
Well, we'll hear more
We
about
will.
the rest of the season, so stay with us. Our next segment, we're going to do a deeper dive into looking at aubergine, and I'm delighted to have Florida Lino share with us more insights about that play coming up. So stay with us. Don't go away. We're here to make the connection, and we're glad you're here today.
Chances are after spring cleaning you missed a spot. A couple really big spots, like your roof and siding. Run your fingers across your siding. You'll likely get a gross residue. And your roof probably has some black streaks too. Your roof and siding aren't always easy to clean, but they're definitely the most visible parts of your home that give it its curb appeal. So let Blue Sky Services clean your roof and siding. Blue Sky's safe soft wash method won't cause any damages and will make your home look like new. Right now, Blue Sky Services is running their summer special where you can get your whole house, roof, and siding cleaned starting at only $447. That's the most viewed parts of your home cleaned for only $447. Then mention AM 950 when you call Blue Sky Services to get an additional $50 off. So get the curb appeal back on your home and call Blue Sky Services at 952-467-2447. That's 952-467-2447.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Catch New Beginnings with Freddie Bell, Saturdays at 11 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our new show airing on Saturdays from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights to living and aging well. Each week, we provide answers to important questions regarding health care, elder care, end-of-life care, and caregiver support to help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Welcome back. We're just having a great time chatting it up. You're back with Connections Radio Show, and we're glad that you've joined us today. And we're all about Park Square, and we're talking about the season. We're talking about the first couple shows, and we have both my co-host, Michael John Peace, who is the executive director of Park Square. And we're also blessed today to have the artistic director, Flordolino Lagandino.
Oh,
Woo,
those are good.
I practiced.
Thank you.
Who's going to be sharing with us more about Aubergine in particular. This is your first play that's totally yours that you picked, and now you're debuting as director.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, yeah, Aubergine. As I told you before, I picked the play a lot because of the writing. Also, I remember when I first read the play, I remember just actually being very emotional about it towards the end. The way that the relationship between the father and the son transpires and eventually ends was really moving to me. I thought that it really captured the wholeness of the Asian American experience. I think for me, a lot of my history has been how do we present Asian American stories or Asian American people as whole individuals, not just as like stereotypes, but how do we show the fullness of their lives? And I feel like this is one of those plays that actually does that. Sunmi is here. She's we were in another show together, Viet Gone over at Mixed Blood Theater, and I think that's one of the other plays that does that. And I wanted to be able to share again one of the best Asian American plays in the last 10 years that have been written. I think something that really struck me in terms of the community is actually how many Korean Americans there are actually in Minnesota. There's Carrie Ruth, who is on our board. It's almost like a love letter to Carrie Ruth in some ways. In order to be able to give people the opportunity to see themselves on stage, that's a really big thing. That in talking to Richard Cook and talking to the board coming here, and something that's really important to me is like, how do we have everyone have a seat at the table to be able to, and how do we have a theater where everyone has the ability to see a representation of themselves on stage? That's really, really important. So like meeting people like Sunmi, meeting people like Megan Kreidler, who was in our show at Viet Gone, I was like, oh, this is a story that would really resonate with this community. So I started with that, and then there's like some personal things within that that are really interesting to me in terms of food. I mean, I love food. Korean food is actually my favorite food in the whole wide world.
I love Korean barbecue.
Love Korean food. I spent 2 years in Korea teaching English as a second language, so I have a rich history. Short, but wonderful time eating my way through Korea for 2 years. But like, it's so important to their culture, and also to my background is Filipino, and that's really important to me. Is like we use food as a way to get to know people. We use food as a way to share our love. I was just talking to Richard Lee, who is going to be our cultural consultant. He's a professor at University of Minnesota, and he was talking about how Koreans use food as a way to show their love, and that's definitely the same thing in Filipino culture. We love a good potluck. We love making egg rolls for people. So that's really important to me. So yeah, all those kinds of things are kind of within the thought process of having Aubergine on our stages.
I'm also struck by the immigrant journey perspective, in that each community that comes as immigrants have a shared story, and yet the story is distinct.
Yeah.
And one of the things that strike me is about the son who really has to navigate for the family. And that's a lot of responsibility for a son to have an awareness of both cultures and to be the navigator, to be the bridge.
Yeah.
And the pressure
Yeah.
that puts on that individual and how to come to grips with that bicultural awareness and who are you in that process.
And it was interesting, like talking to Richard yesterday, who was, I was like, oh wow, I'm so glad you're on this project because you're able to really hone in on some different ideas. He was talking about how in Korean culture, it's actually very similar to Filipino culture. Is that you, what are you doing to uplift the family in a way? It's like what are the things that you actually can do? Like as being for me as like being an artist, I was really happy that my mom, she was really pushing us to like learn piano and learn music, but I don't think she actually thought we were gonna actually be
not as a job.
No, this was just sort of a good thing to do, not a career.
Right, exactly. She's like, she really actually wanted us to be doctors and lawyers, but my brother ended up being an opera singer. I ended up being a theater. My sister as a pastry chef.
She was too good.
She was too good at that. She was really too good. But I think there's a thing about is Ray being a chef? Is that actually a good enough job for his father? And so like how is that attention also within the play? It's like, how is Ray living up to his father's dream for him to having sacrificed? I mean, there's a lot of things to go into, like in terms of an immigrant father coming to the United States and a mother, and then what are their expectations for their kids because they had to sacrifice so much in order to be in an area.
And then what kind of pressure does that put on?
What kind of pressure does that put on them? I definitely feel that is the case with Ray. And like there's a scene in the play where Ray talks to his father, who's actually just sleeping, and it's the only way he can talk to his father. Talks to him about this time when he came back from studying in Europe, and he made this really like 4 or 5 course meal for his father, and then at the end, his father just wanted to open a can of a ramen. He wanted, that was like what he wanted. And, but that for him, for the father, was comfort food for him. So it's like, there's like all these different shit.
How do you connect with what people need and what you want to give them? And I think there's also with what you were saying about, going into the restaurant industry versus a professional. How does that reflect in our values as society of what is important? We know that food creates, a deep sense of connection, of celebration. And why is that not more honored versus becoming a doctor or whatever? Why do we have these stratas of what's important and what's not?
I think the thing for me in terms of my relationship with my family, it's like it's just difficult. If you become a doctor, if you become a lawyer, there's a job for you.
And not only a job, but there's going to be a stability financially.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a certain level of you're automatically in the middle class.
Right.
So I think that's really a big thing. And in a restaurant business, I'm reading right now Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, God bless his soul. But he was like talking about in the book, it's like what? 70% of restaurants fail.
In their first year.
In their first year, exactly. So it's like, but it's also interesting that in Korean communities, I think that sometimes restaurants have been something that people have done in order to make money, but I think
as a transition,
right? But there's been also within that a lot of help within the Korean community to help support Korean businesses. There's a lot of there was a article that I just was reading about how in Korean culture. In America, there's a lot of support for each other. So, and that's how a lot of. In Korean culture, it's being passed down a little bit more than in other cultures because a lot of people are still learning about their learning the language, their support structures.
There's
around.
some transition, and in that transition, but I've been very impressed in many Asian cultures the collaborative nature that really creates a solid business that allows folks to grow as a community.
Yeah, and definitely I know when my parents came to the United States, I know that there was I remember all my aunts and uncles that weren't really my aunts and uncles that would take care of us. We'd go to potlucks together, we'd go to the things, but they were all looking out for each other all the time. So I think that is definitely something in the Filipino culture and what I've seen also in the Korean culture.
Well, what a wonderful way to celebrate that with aubergine.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to talk about aubergine. We've got Sunmi Chomet. Yes, that's right. Who will be joining us to do a deeper dive and dig deeper into all the wonderful aspects of aubergine that we can celebrate. And I'm encouraging you all to go see this show. I'm going to go see it and looking forward to it. I love being part of the Park Square season. And I want to encourage you to consider becoming a season ticket holder so that you can get all of these wonderful plays. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly. When you need legal assistance, let the Hennepin County Bar Association help you find the right attorney. They have professional, experienced referral counselors who can connect you to vetted attorneys practicing in a wide variety of areas, including DUI, real estate, immigration, wills, injuries and accidents, and much more. Take the stress out of finding a lawyer. Call 612-752-6666 or search for Hennepin County Bar Association. The right call for the right lawyer.
I'm Connie Burek, co-host of Awakened Living Infusion radio show. Join Michelle Kitzmiller and I as we focus on all aspects of health, wellness, spirituality, and growth from a mind, body, spirit, emotion perspective. On the Awakened Living radio show, we will discuss stress, self-care, fear, happiness, beliefs, communication, joy, pain, trauma, and more. Join us for the Awakened Living Infusion radio show Saturdays at 10 a.m. Let us share with you ways to infuse vitality into life.
Tom Hartman here telling you that solar energy isn't just for environmentalists. Switching to all-energy solar is actually perfect for reducing your carbon footprint while also saving money on your monthly electric bill. The fact that solar panels cause no earth-harming emissions while it's producing energy is a bonus. Who in the world could object to that? But they can also help you save money month after month for decades. And they do it with a clean footprint. So go green and start saving money today by visiting allenergysolar.com.
Tune in to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We discuss national and local Native American news and events.
2 hours is still not long enough. Join Robert Pilot, Wendy Pilot, and me, Uncle Curtis.
Weekly correspondents include Winona LeDuc, John Greendeer, and Representative Mary Kanoush Bodine.
Broadcast live AM 950 Saturdays 1 to 3 p.m.
We'll be broadcasting live at the Minnesota State Fair August 24th.
At the International Market Bazaar.
Brought to you by Robbins Kaplan and Ho Chunk Nation.
We are awake.
Do yourself a favor and check out the amazing cuisine of eatlocalminnesota.com. More than just a website, eatlocalminnesota.com provides you with the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities. Enjoy made-from-scratch cooking at the family-owned Milton's, specializing in dishes like award-winning ribs and plank salmon grilled up on their charcoal grill. Satisfy any sweet tooth with incredible desserts like Bananas Foster. Milton's menu also includes gluten-free options and a large selection of local craft beers. Reservations accepted for groups of 5 or more. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Sam Turnberg. Today we have storms with a high near 70, while tonight could keep raining with a low around 62. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a high near 82. Monday, mostly cloudy with a high near 76. And Tuesday, partly sunny with a high near 74. We've had some strong storms with damaging hail come through the Twin Cities recently. Trust the locally owned Snap Construction for a free, thorough property inspection. Their staff knows the process well and has handled thousands of insurance claims. Free inspection 612-333-SNAP or check them out online at snapconstruction.com.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. And we're talking Park Square, and we've got great people here to talk about the great season and the great shows coming up. Michael John Peace, who you all know, is my co-host.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Always great to have you here. He is the executive director of Park Square, but also my co-host when it comes to our Park Square partnership in promoting the programs and talking about the ideas that the shows are doing and ways that we're connecting in the community. All good stuff. Also have Flor-de-Lino. I'm going to do this.
Good day.
I am. Lagundino.
Yeah.
There we go. We also have Sunmi Chomet.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Sunmi is a part of Aubergine and is going to tell us a little bit more about your experience in Aubergine and what you're doing in Aubergine and some thoughts about Aubergine.
Sure. First of all, I would just really want to thank you for having us. And I want to just commend Flor-de-Lino and Michael John because this season has created a buzz in the Twin Cities. And I think in a way that I haven't seen for a long time, actors are just really excited about the season. And it's going to bring a lot more people to St. Paul. So I'm excited to be a part of it. It's my first play at Park Square. I've lived here for over 18 years. So I'm just really excited to perform in St. Paul. And as far as Aubergine, like Flor-de-Lino said earlier, I've just been a fan of Julia's work for years. One of my favorite plays, The Language Archive, was performed at Park Square about 4 or 5 years ago, directed by Rick Shiomi. And I also love her play Office Hours, so it's wonderful to dive into her work, which I've loved for years.
And I want to echo your comments about Park Square. Park Square has always had a great reputation of working with local actors and really being part of the community. But I've also seen a wonderful trajectory of deeper connections into the community. And I think it's a fabulous year coming up with the multicultural voices in terms of playwrights, actors, stories. I mean, this is a plethora
definitely.
Of great perspectives. And I think it's the next step in really finding how is our community comprised of such wonderful stories and wonderful people, and how can we see that on stage?
Exactly.
So tell me about your part in Aubergine.
Sure. I play Cornelia. She is Ray's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend who comes back into his life because he needs a translator to talk to his dad, but I want to say that it's also love. And it's a complex relationship. They met working in a restaurant together. And Ray is kind of the epitome of something that Julia Cho, the playwright, was exploring, is how Korean American men, Asian men tend to have trouble sometimes communicating, especially when they have difficult relationships with their own parents who have been immigrants. And so the way he communicates and the way he woos her is through food. And
which is actually a really good technique.
It works. It works. And he's able. Ray isn't the best with words, but he's able to read people in a way where he understands somehow how food is love, and he's able to somehow kinetically understand how food can connect someone to their family or their soul or meaning in life.
And to enrich the story that they're in at that moment.
Exactly. So she ends up translating for Ray when he's calling his father in Korea, translating, or calling the uncle in Korea, and then translating for the uncle who comes to visit because Ray's father's on his deathbed. And there's also other wonderful characters in it that Julia's exploring. There's a character who's a white American woman who opens the play. Her name's Diane, played by Shannon Custer. Everyone loves Shannon Custer. We're a fan of hers as audience members and as fellow actors. And she talks about how her husband was a foodie and how they traveled the world loving the most exotic food on every continent. And then she got news that her father wasn't doing well and came back and realized that, and shared a meal with her father of just a simple pastrami sandwich on buttered bread, and that became her favorite meal. And then there's another beautiful character named Lucien, who's an African character from the Congo, who's a hospital worker that Ray meets. And he shares a story. Every character in the play has a monologue, and he shares a story about what it was like to be in a refugee camp and what it meant to not have food, and how food that seemed like throwaway food became the most wonderful meal on the planet, and how also seeing so much death in the country he's come from, how it's helped him value seeing, caring for people in hospice, because it's a gift to be able to be there for people when they're passing. So he teaches this lesson to Ray. So I just, for me, Julia is like a modern-day Shakespeare. She's so specific with all the words that she chooses. She tries to get to something so much deeper, as far as what she tries to communicate through words, what is beyond words.
The subtext that takes a world of its own.
Yeah, and the centerpiece of the theme of the play is food and family and generational love and acceptance of death, and how all of these stories are connected, all these different people's lives, how food brings us all together.
And becomes a ritual. It has a spirituality beyond the making of this food. It's this food that we share.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, in Korean culture, there's like you mentioned earlier, there's very much this exploration of the immigrant experience. So there's the Western way of caring for people in a hospital. But then what you see in Korean culture and many other cultures, I have a good friend who's Hmong, and, I was in the hospital with her when she was fighting cancer. And no matter what the doctors did and said that she could eat, her Hmong family brought her all the food that they felt was going to heal her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that's very much in this play as well, is the beauty and the struggle of being a first generation or immigrant in this country and navigating the world.
I remember when I lived in St. Paul, I had Hmong neighbors, and there was an elderly woman that would go out and always be shoveling the snow, and I just felt that was terrible. There's other people. Why is the elderly, the oldest woman, out there shoveling? And I sort of made that intonation one day when I was feeling a little like, why are you out there? And it was like, whoa! It was there is an honor in doing the snow removal, and that she is. This is her way of showing that she is healthy, and this is her way of supporting her community and supporting her home. And I got what for in terms of making any intonation that she shouldn't be doing this.
Yes.
Yes. And I learned, this is a good little cultural wake-up call, that, my expectations of caring for someone elderly was protective in a way that was actually condescending.
Yeah. I mean, in Korean culture, it's very much that the older you are, the more that you're responsible to take care of everyone else. And to disrupt the pecking order of that is actually an insult.
And I realized I had insulted this woman, but she corrected me, and I liked being corrected because I don't think if we hadn't had a relationship, she would have corrected me.
Right.
I think she cared enough about me to school me in don't do that again.
Right.
This is my right. This is my responsibility, and I feel happy shoveling the snow. So, okay, I get it.
Which is a foreign concept for Minnesotans.
Yes. How could anyone do? I'm out there going, I should shovel the snow. No,
right.
It's my job.
Right.
Our culture is find a nice 14-year-old.
Exactly.
And now you also, I want to mention before we go to break here, that there's a nice relationship that you have with the character Ray, but you also have a nice relationship with the actor himself.
Yes. Kurt Kwan is playing the lead, and he was just in The Great Leap over at the Guthrie, and he's been in many productions with Theatre Moo, and I've acted opposite him for over almost 10 years. We've played husband and wife, we've played girlfriend and boyfriend, we've played ex-lovers, and so it's fantastic, like you said before, to hire local actors that have a history together and that can bring that to the stage in a way that the audiences here have seen us in multiple ways in multiple venues already.
I think there's a nuance that's created. I mean, actors are terrific no matter where they come from. And when they're talented and they've got those gifts, of course you're always going to love them on stage. But I love seeing Minnesota actors.
Yes.
I do. I love seeing, because they kind of get our quirky community. And there's like humor that can be found that only Minnesotans can really get.
Yes.
And just enough of feeling like we're also economically serving our own and celebrating our own. And when you invest in actors and when you invest in artists in our community, you're really making an economic investment in our greater well-being. So I love that.
Thank you, Lori.
You heard it here on Connections.
Absolutely. And I want you to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about the rest of the season. We're also going to talk a little bit more about Rocky Horror, which is just fabulous. And did I mention you should buy season tickets? I think I did.
ParkSquareTheater.org.
And you can go there and get some really good deals. And I recommend not just seeing one show, but all the shows. They're terrific. So stay with us to hear more about the season coming up.
I'm Peter Ratcliffe from the Eastside Freedom Library, and I'd like to tell you about an historic place on Payne Avenue. Brunson's Pub is a place where history and passion are a part of every detail, starting with the menu. The Payne Phelan neighborhood arose from Dakota people who lived here for hundreds of years, and pioneering immigrant communities, Irish, Swedes, German, and Italians, who made the East Side their home. More recently, waves of new residents from Asia, Latin America, and Africa continue the rich immigrant history and are revitalizing the community's cultural life and economy. Come experience Brunson's Pub at 956 Payne Avenue and grab a discounted gift card when you mention that you're an AM 950 listener or a supporter of the Eastside Freedom Library. Be sure to check out brunsonspub.com.
Being a dog is awesome, except when you really gotta go, but you're stuck inside. That's why I had my human called the Urban Dog. Daily walks, field trips, play groups, one-on-one time, safe off-leash play, and pet sitting. I love being an Urban Dog.
The Urban Dog works with your schedule and can create a plan that fits your needs. The Urban Dog. Exercise, explore, socialize. Let the journey begin. Call 651-231-6333. That's 651-231-6333.
With all the convenient big box stores that sell appliances, why do so many Minnesotans choose Warner Stellian? Check online to learn that Warner Stellian is a Minnesota family-owned business for over 60 years. Warner Stellian sells more brands than anyone else, and our passionate specialists are committed to impressing you so much that you'll refer us to everyone you know. That's our mission here at Warner Stellian. Ask around, check us out online, and when it's your time to buy appliances, join over 300,000 Minnesota homeowners and choose the specialists, Warner Stellian.
Due to unprecedented corporate media consolidation, roughly 6 corporations now dominate the media. For democracy to work, people need easy access to independent and diverse sources of news and information. I'm Amy Goodman. Join me and Juan Gonzalez as we speak with international journalists, grassroots leaders, peace activists, artists, academics, and independent analysts. Democracy Now! Offers real, independent news and analysis.
Catch Democracy Now! Every weekday at 2 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Crooners Lounge and Supper Club is delighted to offer its spacious facilities for your private function. From weddings, retirement parties, business dinners, or any special occasion, Crooners combines a dedicated full-service special events team, an award-winning chef, and a beautiful lakeside ambiance to make your event a resounding success. Visit CroonersLoungeMN.com to learn more about their private dining options, or call 763-571-9020 to get a quote for your next event today.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. We're glad that you've joined us today as we talked about all the cool things happening at Park Square, plays coming up. Particularly, we've done a deep dive with Aubergine and just the wonderful complexity of different dynamics, multicultural celebration, the immigrant's journey, a love story. And we've had my good friend Michael John, who is also my co-host for our Park Square shows. Michael John Peace is also the Park Square executive director.
Oh, that's my part-time job. Really, it's supporting you that takes most of my mental energy.
I've always felt that.
Yeah, good.
We also have the artistic director, and and please know that when you come to a play, there are times that you might get a rousing support in how to pronounce the name, just to make sure that we are supporting Flordolino Lagandino.
Oh, wow. It's getting better every time.
The artistic director with the name, that's a poem.
Yes, and it rhymes, and it's just lovely. Flordolino shared about why this play was picked, what his relationship with it. I really appreciated your sharing about your own journey.
Yeah.
And how that comes to life in this play as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And we had our friend Sunmi Chomet.
That's it.
And Sunmi was sharing about her role as also her love of the play. And we wanted to make sure that we mentioned all the other actors who are part of this and who are part of this beautiful play coming up.
Yes, I just wanted to do a shout out to the other artists in it. Kurt Kwan, I mentioned earlier, as the lead. Derek Mosley, Shannon Custer, Song Kim, who actually played the role of the uncle before, so he's reprising that, and Glenn Kubota, and is playing the father. So I just want to acknowledge the whole wonderful team.
Yes.
It's a play that has a lot of heart.
It does.
I am looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to all my friends on AM 950, all of our listeners, to join us to come see Aubergine. And also, did I mention you really should think about getting a season ticket? This is the time to do it.
Well, it is an amazing season. So Aubergine runs September 20th to October 20th. So that officially opens the season on the Andy Boss stage, followed by Rocky Horror Show on the Proscenium. And then Pride and Prejudice, an adaptation by Kate Hamill, takes the holiday slot on the Proscenium. And then Evita in January. And then this is actually a season add-on. We talked a bit about Face to Face, our Hmong community. And Face to Face is actually the launch of a new ongoing series of shows that really will bring us face to face with our neighbors and the cultures around us and addressing issues that are important to us. And then another wonderful musical, this one you may not have heard of, called Miss You Like Hell by Chiara Alegria Hudes.
I haven't heard of it, but I have felt that.
Yes. And great country rock Tejano score by Aaron McEwen, who's looking at doing a concert in the Twin Cities during the run of the show.
Oh, terrific.
So that's the April-May slot on the Proscenium. And then because summers are made for mystery.
Yes, they are.
Jeffrey Hatcher, a wonderful local writer and screenwriter.
I adore him.
Oh, isn't he great? And he's actually performed on our stage in a play he wrote through a series of mishaps. But his wonderful new Holmes and Watson. So is Sherlock Holmes really dead? Because there's reports that there's multiple people claiming to be him.
Oh,
so
how
that takes the summer slot next year.
I just adore Jeffrey. I used to take classes from him, actually, years and years ago. And he's just a joy, and he always brings a fun twist to a good mystery.
And there is one more season add-on when you go to the season page at parksquaretheater.org. It's one weekend only for the general audience, although we'll be running a week of school matinees, for a great show by Paige Hernandez. It's her own story, her own creation, called Paige in Full, about growing up as a multiracial woman in Baltimore. And she uses hip-hop and dance and theater theater, and it's a really personal journey, again, that dive into the very specific that then brings us back to ourselves, right? Not only the people around us, but also to our own humanity. Yeah.
I also love that we'll be celebrating Baltimore. I think it's a city.
Hallelujah.
I think it's a city that we should all recognize as a beautiful city that has lots to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And Fleur-de-Lino is bringing some of his wonderful network of artists from around the country to help helm some of these productions. And I got the chance, because she stayed with me when she was in town for auditions for Rocky Horror Show, to spend some time with Ilana Ransom Toplitz, who's making her Park Square directing debut with Rocky Horror. And boy, does she love musicals and does she love this show. And because it is St. Small, where I live, where I call home for the last 25 years. Of course, she has directed with someone I graduated from high school with.
That's
from a very
wonderful.
small high school in Illinois. So,
Yeah, I think it's St. Small, but it's also the Twin Cities. There's something about the Twin Cities that, it's like a rubber band that just pulls people in.
Yeah, well, and theater geeks unite across the nation, right? I mean, at some point, you're going to work with good people.
Now, I think I've heard that there's some other fun twists with the Rocky Horror that's a little different. Not only is there no toast,
She's mourning that
I
a little
know.
bit.
I always brought my toast. There's also a character I hear that's sort of a narrator that throughout the show is sort of supporting it. Is that true? An interesting character?
There is. And you will remember the name of the actor, hopefully, or the actress playing the role. But there's a narrator that takes us through the story. And so if you've seen the movie, you will definitely recognize the plot and the other characters. But there are some new twists, and it's also different. We're approaching the show with a lot of love for just what it is and the fun and the over the top. But the way we thought about gender roles and the way we thought about consent and the way we thought about sexual orientation was all very different in 1974 and 1975. So it's like this show that at the one time for those of us in the queer community is just a pillar, right? It was a gateway into opening up our world and inviting others into what was different and new and exciting about us. But it also, there's things that don't jive with how we think about it today. So it's wonderful and problematic in that way. So a lot of intentionality has gone into the casting. And we actually have a Domina, who is an informal advisor on the show around the issues of consent that come up in the show. So it's fun and rollicking, but also of the moment.
I think that's beautiful. And I like when we can take something from the past and know that it had a different cultural awareness, and then and now when we have a deeper understanding of issues that could be triggers, could be this, could be that, we approach it and go, hey, this is how we're going to twist it this time.
Right. And it was important to us in a show about a transvestite from transsexual Transylvania, as the line goes, to really take on and include the transgender community. And so we talked about with the actor playing the role of the narrator, who's played this role in the past, the idea of even costuming, of wearing tennis shoes throughout the show, fabulous. With all these with the gowns and all the fun things that character gets to wear, because as a transgender person of color, most likely to be chased. Yeah. Right. So that's a little message that's embedded in there. And then they want to have fun with, well, what happens? How do we get that person into heels?
Well, it's going to be a great season. I can't wait for Rocky Horror and Aubergine. Come see these plays. And when you see the plays, you're going to get hungry for more. I guarantee it. So stay with us. Throughout this year, we're going to be promoting and talking about and celebrating the great shows at Park Square. And I hope that you'll join us on the journey by being a part of it and seeing it live.
Indeed.
I want you to rock